My name is Terry Fox and I am running Artworks Designs. Here we build Countach and other replicas, mostly from scratch and from brand new. So new body shells, new chassis. We don't try and restore old cars to a degree, it's too much work. Even though I've built quite a few classic cars and replicas, I've decided to go full time. As part retirement, part passion, part job. Well, I've had all sorts of cars, probably too many to list, but I've had everything from Maseratis, genuine Maseratis, Bentleys, going back to the old days in the Fords. I've had Sierra Cosworths, I've restored Mini Cooper S's. I was more into restoring cars originally. My father's fault, because he had lots of decent cars, and I got involved at a very early age with a spanner at about 8 years old, and I'm still inflicted with the condition now. So yeah, it's been a lifelong experience of working on cars, really. Here I build Countach replicas basically. I've got my red Masterco, which is my daily car I've had for 6 years on the road. The one behind me is a Sienna, probably one of the last Siennas made in the 1990s. Got it out of a garage which was measured 7 foot by 7 foot, where the guy was really trying to build it to quite a high spec. And when I took it over, I just finished it off, and it's what you see now. It's very accurate and very, very nice colour and looks the part. Again, not cheap, but I use a lot of original parts now, so you can't get the parts really anymore. So they either come from Italy or I have to make the parts. Here we are making parts for the Masterco, which is the red and the grey car. We're building a new Prova on the other side of the garage, which you saw earlier, which is twin turbo V12. That one will feature aluminium panels, as original Countach would have had, just to get the authenticity for the client. So that one's going to America, so it's quite nice that it's going to be really nice replication of the original car, but drivable. I say some of the people who, client-wise, they can afford the real ones, but they want something more drivable, more usable, and that's what I build. And I say they've seen mine been driven for 6 years on the road, so that's what they want: a reliable sports car, supercar, not something that's going to cost them an arm and leg or break or cost them £20,000 for an engine and clutch rebuild. You know, the whole car can be built for not much more than sort of £50,000 to £80,000. In that realm, it's a good value proposition, when real ones now £500,000. So we're not trying to replicate the real car, because there's a lot of flaws in the real car anyway. So we try and make it more user-friendly, so better brakes, better steering, better legroom, air conditioning, things that go into the cars now that are just second nature. As I say, that's what we're trying to do, is create a modern supercar that is still old school looking, which is key to what people want. A lot of the customers that I speak to don't want the modern Lamborghini. They're too fancy, elaborate, they say, a bit bling. They're not really into that. They prefer the old school, the Miura, the Countach. So obviously the Miura is something else I'd like to build in the future. My pet thing would be a Miura Jota, so looking forward, near retirement, I hope to have one of those by the time I get to that stage. So that's a plan ahead. Some can be customised. I tend to keep them to look original, but the chassis are more customised, so safety features like the roll cage in the one you saw there, completely different to the old kits or the original car, a lot more safety orientated. So that has really a full roll cage built into it now. So you've got to consider now that an SUV might drive into the side of you, whereas in the 80s there were no SUVs. The biggest car was probably a 4-door saloon. So you've got to build the cars now for safety, for the client's benefit, and for my benefit as well. I tend to like them, you know, built properly. More so than getting an original chassis. The original chassis looked nice, but it's not that great, not for a modern car. So these chassis are a lot better, a lot stronger, and purpose-built to do what they do on modern roads. Yeah, my red Masterco, I bought it off a guy that had spent years teaching with it. It was not reliable. He did 300 miles in it, took it for the statutory government test, passed the test, broke down on the way home, decided he'd had enough of it. So I was actually flying to the Philippines at the time, so I bought it over the phone. So I hadn't even seen it, but I just knew I wanted that particular car because it looked right. And I've rebuilt all the mechanicals on it, so reliability-wise, it's been going 6 years, not a problem. Body-wise, it's got patina of an original 1980s Countach, so I've not painted it yet. I should do, but I keep thinking that if people touch it at shows or walk around it in shopping malls, it's not an issue. You know, I'm not that scared that somebody's going to scratch it or mark it or lean on it like I would be one of these. So that's why it's a daily. It's used daily, rain or shine. I'm commuting it as best as I can. Puts a smile on my face, as I say. That's what the passion's all about. So business and passion to me is the same thing. If you want to be good at business, you've got to be passionate about that business. So that's why we do what we do. That one basically started as a Rover block, but it's got a lot of TVR parts on it now for reliability and performance. So it's emissions exempt, that car, but it's got Weber carburetor conversion on it. It's got bigger stage 3 heads on it. And it's a lot more fuel efficient than it was as a Rover, to be honest. It probably does more miles to the gallon now than it did as a Rover twin-SU carburetor engine, which is why it was always breaking down. So all those bits have been eliminated from the old breaking down Rover, and it's now been completely rebuilt in using TVR components. It's a lot lighter than a real Countach. It's probably got nearly as much performance as a real one. I'm not taking it past the legal 70-mile-an-hour speed limit, obviously, but it will do track days quite nicely. So I've been around Rockingham in it on a track day, and it's quite impressive. It did a good job. It's got a bit of patina about it now. It's a bit scruffy inside, but it's comfy and does the job. So why break something or mess with something that works? Although later this year I will paint it and retrim it, I think. It's about time. So 6 years now it's been like that. And keep it the same colour. Might change the interior trim to white if I dare. If I can keep white clean, I'm not sure. But it would look nice in white as a demo car. I think this one's obviously a replica of the Patrick Mimram. Had a special Countach built for him when he bought Lamborghini out in this colour. So I've replicated the Patrick Mimram look and feel of this car, whereas that one is probably the most photographed colour of any Countach known to man, red with a biscuit colour interior. So it'll probably stay something like that. Same here, you saw today, some guys coming down in their other cars. They know what I do, they love what I'm doing, and they come in for coffee and have a chat about replicas and cars and Italian things. And I say we wanted to have an Italian cafe as well to match the theme. So it's got a theme to what we do as well. So we've got the chairs, we've got the cafe bit. So when the COVID thing has died down a bit, we hope to get back to serving Italian cheesecake and Italian coffee and making an experience of it, looking at the paintings and the pictures, which we'll offer for sale as well. So we'll get some sort of paintings up on the walls. People can enjoy the experience like I do, because it is about a passion thing. The Italian thing is about passion. It's not just a car, it's a whole way of life. And we want to emulate that in what we do. Yeah, the Sienna, I'll say unfortunately the guy who owned it, I knew his wife, and the guy that owned it actually died, unfortunately, halfway through the build. And his wife contacted me and said, would you like to buy it, give you first offer on it? I don't know what it is, but it's in the garage. So I went over there, looked at it, and said, yeah, it's a Sienna. It's very rare, and I'll pay you full asking price for it. So it was quite an expensive car to buy at the time in bits, still all in boxes, but most of it was there. Some bits are still missing, which I'm trying to get hold of now to authenticate it with genuine parts. Done a lot of work on it, and my friend Johnny, who you know, painted it. Did a cracking job on the paint, special paint mix. Bordeaux Special it's called. And we've tried to do it as best we can, really. Keep that alive, that passion that was in the original car is now in this one, as you can see. We're trying to do it to like a factory level. It's taken a while. I mean, I've had the car nearly 2 years now, so part of it being budget for the client who wants it perfect, and secondly to get the bits to actually make it perfect. It's getting harder to get the original bits, and they cost a lot of money now. Like front indicators, like £300 for front indicators. It's crazy money, but it's got to have the right indicators, in my view. There's a lot of replicas out there that just don't look right because they've got the wrong parts on them. What we're trying to do here is get the original parts from original cars, which is hard because there's not many original cars either. So And that's what I say, when people see these, they say, wow, you know, I've never seen one. Well, you won't. You see a real one, I've seen about 3 in my life. And 2 have been in Italy, 1's been in the UK. So it's nice to have a replica that you can see, because it's the same car basically. So just the shape is, as you can see here, it's an awesome shape. There's nothing like it. So we've replicated the interior nicely, as the original would have been. Wilton carpets, leather dash, proper instrument setup. We've just got to put the roof panel in this one, which is the hard bit. It's like a Alcantara and velour type roof, so it's got to be ironed and steamed and put in place perfectly. And then we've got the door struts to put on, which we're just about to do. So that's a job for this week. We've got the air conditioning put in it, because modern cars need air conditioning. So yeah, put a few modern bits in this one, over than what it had originally. But currently it's nearly ready. It's about 90% there now. So this one's having gold wheels, believe it or not, same as my red car. And then with this one with the gold, and it brings the gold out in the actual paint. It looks really sparkly when you see it in the sun, in the shine on it. It's got gold flake in there, it's got purple, it's got burgundy, it's got silver, it's got orange. Very special paint on this car. So I've told the customer don't ever scratch it or damage it. So yeah, it's got to be looked after very nicely. So that's really that one. I say Siennas, they only built 25 of those. They built 5 Mastercos, of which I've got 2. There's one more in Peterborough, which my friend's got, and the other 2, I believe, are in bits. So they're quite rare on their own rights. So this one's 25 builds, Masterco 5, 1 on the road, mine. So that makes it even rarer. Number 2, Masterco, which I found a few weeks back in bits. We're going to make something special out of that one. So maybe a Skyline engine or something a bit exotic in that one to give it the horsepower. And put a special paint job on it, a bit different. Build it for track and road, so we'll make that one move a bit. So let's go wild with the turbo on that one. And the Prova in there, it's got twin turbo V12, so that will be fast enough. Left-hand drive, so it's going to America, as I say. That one's going to have all the luxuries in it. 99% will be genuine parts fitted to that one, so it'll look the part. You've seen the roll cage we've put in that one to make it safe, so American side of things, it's meets a lot of the safety standards that's needed. And then we'll look at probably doing a Miura as the future. So, but it would have to be a Jota. I'm not really into the original Miura. It's for collectors. I want something a bit raughty, a bit wild. So it will have to be a Jota with the wider back arches. I like to have the car looking the right shape, with the right wheels and the right interior, and not too wild on a Countach. It doesn't need much, it's wild enough, you know. I don't like Fiero Countachs. It's well known on Facebook that I hate the shortened wheelbase things that they look like they're throwing a body at it and not bothered. I can't stand them, that does my head in. So in a way I'm a bit of a purist. I wouldn't go to every switch and dial to get it absolutely dead right. There's modern switches now. I mean, the original Countach switchgear was just bits of Fiat, bits of Lancia, bits of Alfa, all thrown in there, and it doesn't look great. So you've seen the cars I've got, they've got slightly moderner entertainment system in there, got camera built in, and all the controls are on the screen, touch screen now, where the original stereo would have been. My car has got it's the same sort of dash as the original, but it's just got 3 switches. I've taken all the cigarette lighters out and bits and pieces that you don't need. So the bits on mine, the 3 switches, they do stuff. The new one, this Sienna is perfect, it's probably too clean. The cleaner the car, the more kitty it tends to look. The more bashed about and patinaed, I think it looks more original. So the red one, as I say, it's, people question me, so is it real? Every time, especially as a Q plate, and they still say, is it real? People say, oh, I didn't notice that. So there's some what I call fondness to have the right plate on it, like a Lambo plate or something. I'm not really into that. It's a replica. I tell people it's a replica. As soon as you open the doors, it's a replica. Open the bonnet, it's a replica. You know, some of these fake ones, they're trying to hide it with like Lambo plates or some things. You know, you're not driving a £400,000 Lambo, you're driving a replica. So why try and be a fake? That's the fake bit I don't like. I don't mind people having the replicas. I think that's a good thing, that you can build a replica that will handle, drive better, stop better, be more reliable than a real one, and still enjoy it, and it's a replica. What I don't like, as I say, these strange ones that they bolt to Fieros and stuff. I just don't see a Fiero as a supercar. These are all space frame chassis, the right length. All the dimension on these cars are exact to the original Countach. But as I say, there's purists out there, they want every switch, replicated, or it's not proper if you don't change the, don't put the cigarette lighter in, or you don't put that particular switch in the right place. That's not me. I like it to work. The functionality is key rather than the actual it looks right, but it doesn't actually work. Doors mainly. They're a pain in the neck to get right. There's lots of bits on these cars that people don't realise how hard they are to do. It's just getting them to work properly, getting the cooling right, getting the engine and the gearbox to run properly. Because they are different bits. I mean, you use Audi gearbox on a BMW V12 or a Renault engine or a Rover V8 or a TVR. The different cars come together, so you're going to have bits that you need to work out how it's going to work. And that's where most people give up. There's this one I've just bought. I mean, he's got the doors working, and he still gave up. He must have spent hours getting those doors right, but they work, and still gave up. The cost of the glass on these is nearly £2,000, so a lot of people build these with the dream and they don't have the sufficient funds to finish them off. I totaled up some of the bits for the one over there, and it's about £30,000 in parts before you even touch the car, just to get it looking authentic. The sky's the limit. As I say, you can build what you want, but budget is the one thing, doors and engineering is the second thing, and get it to drive nice is probably the third thing, which some of them drive like dogs, they're awful. But I've got mine running nice now, so it drives like a proper car should drive. And that one's on rose joint suspension, like an original Countach with 5-bar suspension, so it should be a bit rougher than normal. Whereas this one's got rubber suspension and it's a bit more compliant for everyday modern roads. And again, it's just to say, it's really the parts. Getting the parts is quite hard, as I say. I've seen ones where they put different backlights on because they can't get the original backlights, because they're about £400 for the backlights. So they put some like trailer board lights on there and it just kills it. I mean, that bit, my OCD goes crazy then. I see things like that, it's just very hard. To build a replica now, one of the key things is, the most important thing is getting it on the road. The emissions test is probably the biggest problem. Things like light level heights and indicators. They don't like the side indicators on these because you can't see them from the back. So there's all sorts of complications you have to get through. Biggest thing though is the emissions on the engines, to get an engine through the emissions test now. And the date of the car as the donor, or finding the right donor. Probably the Audi V8 is the best donor at the moment to get, because they're current cars, plenty of them, reliable, and a lot of power. You start putting things, like BMW V12, it's getting harder to get those through. It's doable, but you've got to have standalone ECUs, which you can spend £3,000 getting the engine running properly. And to have dual setup to get it through ECU and then performance mode. Then there's the things that, the components that are sharp on these. The Countach has got lots of angles and points. They don't like that sort of thing now. You've got to have the test in the dashware around, which, you've got this round thing where it's all rounded off, and they go all over the dash with this ball and make sure it's all rounded. Well, there's not much round bits in there, is there? So it's, and luckily mine are already done. Mine are tested before this all came about. And this one's got a Renault V6 that it's done with at the moment. But we want to change it for V12 later, so that may bring in other problems. We might have to resubmit it for the emissions. Not sure on that one. That one's going to America, so it's a different emissions test. So that again will have a different ECU setup. So we'll have to run quite lean in the States. Whereas here, so that's a standard MOT on the red one. It's cheap to insure, it's standard MOT. Nothing to go wrong with that one really. It's quite easy to maintain, run and drive. Building one now is a different kettle of fish. It's harder. I'd say to people mainly, don't build one unless you've got the funds to do it, because there's nothing worse than throwing all that money at it at the parts and then ends up like this one with, a built rolling car with all the parts bought for it, but then not enough probably money or time to finish it off. So a lot get left in this state, sort of half built. I've picked two up so far. The Prova's brand new, obviously from Prova, so that's all brand new from scratch build. Sienna was, chassis was there, built, body was on, not finished, not painted, so all this has had to be done. But it was all new, so it was easy to put through. The second master car, I've just bought the newer one. That's as far as it got. The guy spent 10 years building it that far. So you can waste a lot of time, a lot of money getting nowhere quick. It's built to sort of replace the idea that you can actually use them. Yeah, I mean, £500,000 for a real QV now, or 1.2 million for an LP400, the original no arch one. Are you going to use that around Nottingham or Grantham or Leeds or Manchester? Don't think so. Whereas mine, you can use it, drive it, park it, go and have a cup of coffee, no worries. You still got some worries, you know, some idiot will, you can be careful, but you've not got a £500,000 car set outside. So, you know, and it's still rare. I mean, that replica is rare. How many times do you see a replica that looks like that? Well, it's usable. You know, there's loads in barns, but there's not many on the road. I know about probably 5 that's on the road. So it's probably rarer than the real one. To use it every day is even rarer, I would guess. There's only me that probably uses one every day. But it's my business, it's my marketing side, my angle, you know, and my reliability factor to prove to the customers, yeah, you can drive a replica. It won't break down you every 5 minutes if you do it properly. Went to the supercar Rockingham Day, 100 supercars. I was invited there, even though it was a replica. And I was the only replica that was invited because they said it looked good enough to be there. So I parked next to McLaren in the VIP bit and Porsche, McLaren and a Lotus Evora that had done the Gumball. And the Porsche was quite famous, I think that was on the film Gumball, so he was there next to it. And not one person stood next to the Porsche, the McLaren or the Lotus. They all stood around the replica Countach. So it's quite funny, that was quite hilarious, that they spent all this money on cars. I mean, £30,000 on the roof scoop for McLaren. I don't think my car cost that to build. Let alone he couldn't catch me down the straight, hardly. He really struggled. And by the time he got the speed up, I'd have turned into the next corner and gone. So, but people accepted it as a, you know, I thought I was going to have aggravation, like you say, you know, oh, it's a replica, all this sort of thing. Not one person came to me and said, oh, it's just a replica, not one. And in fact, on YouTube, you can see the videos, right? They all say, wow, that Countach replica sounds awesome. Oh, that Countach replica looks brilliant. Yeah, so it's all on YouTube, and it's quite good feedback on there from people I've never even met, so I'm not biased. So they gave us the Gumball shirts as well for going, so that was quite nice. And the guy from Gumball sat in it. He was about 6'7", so we had a mission to get him in it. We had an even funnier mission to get him out of it because he had to crawl out on his hands and knees. So it's hilarious. That was a funny bit. But he can get in it, but he couldn't get out of it. So. And he couldn't press any pedals. He pressed all 3 pedals with 1 foot. So I've got very small feet, so that's built like a go-kart. It really is small inside that one. And the new ones have obviously got a lot more room because I've built them for bigger people. New Prova guy's 6'5", Sienna guy's 6'3", 6'2". So they've all got bigger feet than me, so I had to really rethink the design of these. So that's one of the complicated bits. You couldn't get in that and drive it. Even bigger feet than size 8, you wouldn't be able to drive my red one. You sit in it, it's comfy, but you sit like in a go-kart. So it's quite funny when people get in it and they say, how do you drive it? So I said, well, it drives all right. I'll jump in it like I did when there, jump in it, get in, no problem. So it's built for little Italian people, with little legs, long arms. And that's what they were built for. So, you know, you can't argue, it's not the car's fault.